Press play. Yes, you did. Awesome. Where did we get up to yesterday? Ein Minute. Oh, don't tell me I didn't. No. Oh yeah, phew. Okay, so yesterday we're up to Quelle 6. Am I right? Mm-hmm. Esther Parhesia Hava. One second. You don't. Kobe, where's yours? I've only got. I'm sorry. I haven't got a spare. I'm sorry. Please. Okay. So let's just very quickly recap. We have the Gemara. Shaloi Kados. Kashavadati. She now is going to Chachashverosh Barotzain, and therefore she is going to be Asura al Bala. We have the Gemara discussing the Parhesia aspect of Chilul Hashem. The Gemara asks from the Parhesia element, Esther Parhesia, so maybe there was no operative mitzvah of V'nikdashti. Answers the Gemara. Two answers, Abaya and Rava. Abaya says, remember the Lamdas, how we explained the Gemara? Abaya says, Karka oilam hoisa. In other words, the question is valid. The question, remember? In other words, according to Abaya, the question is valid. Really, why did she not give her life up? The answer is, you only need, it's a technical answer within the parameters of the mitzvah of Chilul and Kiddush Hashem the mitzvahs Kiddush Hashem of an Nikdashti, and that you only need to give up your life when you are taking an active role in the Chilul Hashem. But if you are passive, you're Karka Olam, therefore there's no action, and therefore there is no imperative, there's no halachic imperative for the Nikdashti. Rav, on the other hand, rejects the premise of the question. He says that the question is not valid. Because, as Rashi says, "Ve'ein kan chilul Hashem." Es gibt kein chilul Hashem. There is no chilul Hashem here. Your question was based on a mistaken understanding, because the motivation behind the act is pure hanoas atzmai. He has a desire, he has lust, simple as that, and it has nothing to do with das or anything to do with religion, and therefore there is no chilul Hashem. But there's no. According
to Rashi's opinion, Rashi's answer, we would assume that anytime there is some aggressor who wants something for his cause, which automatically inflicts upon mitzvot, it's not
correct. It's not a
shmad.
Correct. Exactly. That's exactly.
But that's okay.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. It's hanas atzmai, and there is no intent to disparage the values of Yiddishkeit and the das. It's nothing to do with it. Correct. Pure taiva. That's all it is. Right. Now we come to Tosfos, and here is where it gets more interesting. And it is a long Tosfos, but I've sort of emboldened the bits which I think are directly relevant for us. Fred Tosfos, so the Gemara asked, Esther Parhesia Havoi, asks Tosfos Tema. In other words, as I pointed out to you, the Gemara is asking from the perspective of Chilul and Kiddush Hashem.
Yeah.
Tema asks Tosfos, why did the Gemara not challenge the question we perhaps would have expected the Gemara to ask, and that is, it's Aroyos. Forget Chilul and Kiddush Hashem. Forget technicalities of V'nikdashti b'soich Parhesia. It's one of the Gimel Averos Chamuros. It's Aroyos. That would have been the obvious question. Tema, and the Gemara doesn't answer it. Doesn't ask that question. That question is not what the Gemara asks. And the question is, why not? Take. Similar question can be asked on the Gemara at the beginning of Ksubos. The Omri, where the Gemara says the ikat tsunuos, there are women who are tsunua, and their virtue and their modesty, they are moisa nefesh, in situations where perhaps technically they don't need to be Moser Nefesh, upon which the Gemara asks, V'lidraish lehu da'inus shari. So it's up to the Rav, or whoever it is, to be mechanech, the husbands to be mechanech, these noshim tznuais, that it's einus. You don't have to give your life up for einus. That's the Gemara asks. Umay kushya says Tosfos, Umay kushya, what's the question? You see from the omission of this Gemara, in other words, Oh my kushya, why are we telling them not to give themselves up? Surely what they're doing is right, because it's Gilui Aroyos. Hoshapir avdon de mosri nafshayu mishum Gilui Aroyos. Why should the Gemara in Ksubas ask? We have two indicators, let me put it too clearly. There are two indicators from two different Gemaras which seem to point in the same direction. That for some unknown reason, there does not, the Gilui Aroyos component does not appear to be present in these situations of women being, unfortunately, nebuch, coerced and compelled into intimate relationships with others. We see it over here from the fact that the Gemara asks a totally different question, ignoring what you would think is the more obvious question, and we see it in the Gemara in Ksubas similarly, because the Gemara says we should tell them it's mutter, and that seems to be, again, indicating that it's mutter. Why is it mutter? It's Gilui Aroyos. Again, we're seeing from both of these texts, we're seeing that it's mutter. Why is that so? V'tiretz Rabbeinu Tam. And here we come to the opinion of Rabbeinu Tam. De'ein chayovin misa al be'ilas oived kechavim. The fundamental difference is that when we talk about Gilui Aroyos, we talk about with another Jew. That is the problem. Now, of course, it may be osur to go. I mean, it is osur for a married woman to go with a Gentile, obviously, but that's not the Gilui Aroyos, which is one of the Gimel Averos Chamuros. De'ein chayovin misa al be'ilas oived kechavim. Mishum derachmona afkerei lezarei do'oived kechavim. Zir masusim zir mosam. That is not what the Torah means. That is not covered. A be'ilah, a marital intimacy with a Gentile doesn't come under the rubric of this halacha. That's Rabbeinu Tam's opinion. Umitoich kach hayoretza Rabbeinu Tam. Now here we come to an interesting story. Rabbeinu Tam wanted to be matir. Here's how he paskined it halacha l'maisa. Bas Yisrael shehi mira nebuch le'aleinu v'le'alechem ayidish tochter. You know what? I want to stop here and tell you a story. It's just fallen into my head, and I know you like these sort of things as well, and they are... I heard this from Rabbi Yisrael Friedman, who was Shlita was very close to Rav Aaron Leib, and it's a lesson in so many different levels. I don't know whether you remember, you're probably too young to remember, and the story of the Monica Lewinsky scandal. You may have heard of it. One of you is saying no, one's saying no. Yes. The bottom line is there was a White House intern about whom there was a scandal with Bill Clinton and what they did or didn't do, and it was sordid. It was a very sordid affair. It was vulgar. It was sordid. When it was happening, the thought that was crossing my mind was that this is absolutely a kiyum of the Mishnah in Seita, that the Beis Vad Liznus, one of the signs of Mashiach coming is that the Beis Vad will be used Liznus, and it was.
Well,
so Rabbi Yisrael Friedman said he was talking to Rabbi Aaron Leib, he was talking to the Rosh Hashiva, and he expected the Rosh Hashiva knew what he'd heard, and he had expected the Rosh Hashiva to be talking about because people at the time were, it was, you read the newspapers, even if you didn't have social media or any of it was almost impossible to ignore the disgusting details, the vulgar details of what had or hadn't happened, and he expected the Rosh Hashiva to really, talk about the disgusting. Instead, he said the Rosh Hashiva cried, and the Rosh Hashiva said he cried. He burst into tears when he was hearing about the details of the story, and he said, because Monica Lewinsky was a Jewish girl, he said, "A Yiddish neshama, a bas melech," and that hurt him, and that was an angle that. Everybody else was, thinking about it's disgusting and we shouldn't be, and he just saw a bas melech. He saw that was the adinut, the sensitivity of the Rosh Hashivas Zatzal. It's unbelievable. Think the dignity. Oi. A Yiddish neshama, Tyra, a Yiddish girl. This is where she is now. Bas Melech, terrible. Yeah. So, don't know why that fell into my head. It's a beautiful Maisa, I think. It's an incredible Maisa it says so much about Rabban Leib. That's how. Yeah. The Maisa he was with Rabbeinu Tam. Lahatir Bas Yisrael Shehimira. Nebuch. That's what Nebuch, a Yiddish girl, went off the derech. And she had a relationship with an Ovid Kechavim. V'shuv nizgayer imo. And he then becomes a ger. Now, I don't want to say too much, but it's something that, well, it goes both ways, but it goes more here the other way. But this is something that happens. And I've seen this and continue to see this, where a non-Jewish, two people have a relationship, one of them is Jewish, and the non-Jewish one gets really interested in the religion and ends up making and does proper giyur, and ends up they're both becoming Shema Torah mitzvahs. It's something in our Kehillah which we have seen, and mitzad echad it shouldn't have happened in the first place. Mitzad sheni, this is a template, and this is not a new story. That's what you see from Rabbeinu Tam. You see Nebuch, a Yiddish tochter that goes off and has a relationship with an Ovid Kechavim, and then he is Mizgayer. And presumably, if Rabbeinu Tam is accepting it as a gear, it was a proper gear. In other words, it wasn't L'Shem Ishus, L'Shum Mizgayer Ima, and now they want to get married. Are they allowed to? Echad lebal, v'echad lebayil, v'echad litruma, v'nitma. Remember, so she has been intimate with him. Now, I'm not sure. It sounds like from this story that she was an Eishes Ish. Sounds like. Not clear to me. But either way. So V'shum is going. So Rabbeinu Tam wanted to be matir l'kaimo b'yahadus. D'loi shayach l'meimach l'bayel b'bias ovid kechavim. To have a kabias behema. L'halacha. That this is considered Gilui Aroyas with all of the halachas of Biyahorim Val Yavor and Echad Lebal V'echad Lebayil. No, Rabbeinu Tam held it was not. And that is the answer why the Gemara here in Sanhedrin focuses on the parhesia element and the Gemara, and also the Gemara in Ksubas. Stop here. That is Rabbeinu Tam's opinion. Ask me a question.
Why is he bringing an example of voluntarily, like a voluntary example? I didn't get what his tables was, because
Rabbeinu Tam has an opinion that bias akum does not forbid. It's osur, but it doesn't create the problem of echad lebal v'echad lebayil,
okay, yeah.
and there's no Yaharig Val Yavor, and that's the answer to the Gemara. No, I'm not going on. I am on strike, and it's very fashionable here.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be worse than Lufthansa and Deutsche Bahn and all these other amazing enterprises.
No.
I don't want more pay. I don't want less working hours. I want a kasha. No, you don't need to look inside. You don't need to look inside for this question. You need to think. Who and what we're talking about. You're going to kick yourself, Kobe, when you're here. You really are. If you're not, I will. You may look at page 1. Permission is granted.
Yeah, Achashverosh.
Thank you! No!
So he's a goy.
No! So what's going on? Kasher of oddity. Not according to Rabbeinu Tam.
She should, yeah.
No? Come on. Kick? Yeah. Come on. What's going on?
Yeah.
Rabbeinu Tam's arguing with the Gemara? The Gemara Megillah? Rabbeinu de Kula Alma. What's going on? Park that for a moment. Come on. I had to do that. Sorry.
Yeah.
He's just checking. Go on. Am I right or am I right? Indeed. And we're going to have to see how it's brought in halacha. It's all very nice to say we have a Rabbeinu Tam here. So first of all, we're going to now see the Rivom who argues. And I was Vehiksha Rabbi Yitzchak berab Mordechai frag the Rivom the al korchoch bebias akum nesra labal. I don't understand, Rabbi Notami says. It is blatantly obvious from multiple sources that the bia of akum, of course, does forbid to a husband. Okay, that's one raya. And this is a bit of Amrina Nami b'Megillah. Kasha avadati beisava kach avadati mimcha. Alma legabe balo loy chashiva beisakum kebias behemo.
Yeah.
So, really strong cash on Rabbeinu Tam, right? Now he says, remember, if I can cast your memory back, why are we learning this Tosfos? What's the kasha of the Tosfos? So Rabbeinu Tam dodged the kasha of the Tosfos by saying, you know why we didn't ask from Gilui Aroyos in our Gemara here in Sanhedrin and only from Chilul Hashem? Because there is no Gilui Aroyos. But the Rivom says there is. We're back to the question. Why didn't we ask? That was the question, yeah? So why is the Gemara here in Sanhedrin only bothered about Esther was Pahesia? We're looking at the Chilul Hashem angle. We should have said, but Esther's Aroyas, how could she have done that? Says the Rivom, de Kimle de Mahani Tama de Karka Oilam le'inyan de lo mechayva limsor atzma mishum Aroyos. We understand that this reason of Karka Oilam is gultig. It is valid insofar as if it works so that you don't need to give your life up for the Chilul Hashem aspect, then it will also work insofar as not having to give your life up for the Gilui Aroyos aspect. So answer number one of Abaya answers both potential questions. Yeah, so far so good. So had we asked the question, it's Aroyos, we could also have answered Karka Olam, and therefore there's no Yaharik Val Yavo. Yes, according to the Rivom, normally you would have to, but it just so happens for Aroyos you don't have to on a technicality, because it's passive, Karka Olam. And that answers both questions. 1 minute, we're not finished, yeah? You've got to focus, there's a Tosfos, yeah? It works. This answer works for both possible questions. Says the Rivom something else. Where do we learn this idea that you have to Yaharik Val Yavo? We learn it from Ritzeach. He says in Ritzeach also, this is only valid when you are being asked to perform an act of Ritzicha. But what would be, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, a scenario where you are being used, your body is being used as in place of a bullet. Zum Beispiel, the fellow says to you, I'm going to push you off the roof and you're going to fall onto somebody else and kill him, crush him, or I blow your brains out. So it's also a question of Yehorig. Is it Yehorig Val Yavor? What would you say? What would the halacha be? Somebody puts a gun to your temple and says, I'll blow your brains out, or unless you allow me to push you off the building, you'll survive. Your fall will be broken by the person down there, but you will kill them.
You're not doing a nice, you're not doing active
killing. Oh, that's what the Rome says.
But it's definitely Psychresha.
Very good. Yeah, that's true. Okay. Ani meli kaidem she'harg biyadayim. Aval hech lo yavad ma'aseh kugon shemashlichin oisay al tinoik u'mismaich mistabra she'ein chayv limsar atzmai. Says the Rivom Asvara. Says the Rivom it's a svara. It's a svara is because why do we say with Ritzicha? Why do we say that kill or be killed? It's based on a svara. How do you know your blood is redder? You can't make a relative qualitative evaluation of whose life is worth more, well, that svara goes both ways. The svara that prevents you from actively killing somebody else also says, how do I know that the blood of that kid is more than my blood? That I don't know. So because you can't evaluate, you have to be mistalik. You can't get involved. Mm-hmm. But here I'm not getting involved. I'm not doing anything. Mm. And that's the lomdus. Mm-hmm. Yeah? Nice. It means I need to be mistalik. Now, the truth is, for the tape, there is a Reb Chaim on this, an incredible Reb Chaim, and there's more to be spoken about. This is also to do with the conjoined twins dilemma and all this sort of stuff. But, says Tosfos, says the Rivom, this svara goes the other way. Mistabra the Ein Chayv Limsarat, we can say, Adarabba, my chazas the dama de chavroi sumaktfei. Why should I say that the blood of the person that is underneath this building is better than mine? Maybe mine is better, given delay of it, as long as you don't do a story. Aval, miss out these bits and go to the bits that I'm emboldened. I'm trying to make our way through the Tosfos more quickly. Aval inyan chilul Hashem mishum parhesia loisal kedatach de mahane tama de karka olam. Says the Rivam, I'll tell you why the Gemara asked from the perspective of chilul Hashem and not from the perspective of Aroyos. It is true that if you accept the svara of karka olam, you can use it to answer both questions. But which one is a bigger chiddush? When you're applying the answer of karka olam, which one is a bigger chiddush? You know which one's a bigger chiddush? Not against the aroyos one, because that's a technical thing to do with action. This is the chilul Hashem one is a much bigger chiddush, because you might have thought, because there is a chilul Hashem. Who says your passivity, your passive involvement in the chilul Hashem is okay? Maybe it's not okay. Especially on the basis of what I explained to you yesterday. Exactly. That's why, says the Rivam, the Gemara asked the question of chilul Hashem and not the question of aroyos. You're right, you could have asked either one, and we could have given the same answer. But this one, it tells me a lot more. When you have a choice of asking two questions and giving the same answer, ask the better question, because then the answer will give you more of a chiddush, something I would not otherwise have known. Now it's true, once I have the answer of karka olam as being valid vis-a-vis chilul Hashem, then kal v'chomer, of course it's going to be valid for the aroyos bit. That's not such a big chiddush. That's the Rivam's mahalach in the sugya. Okay. Let's go on. V'hod parach, the next bit that I put in bold. V'hod parach perek mitzvahs chalitza gabe Yael. Now I'm going to mention this because there's another Gemara which you need to know. Yael kills Sisra, as you know, and she seduces him, right? And she is intimate with him multiple times, the Gemara says, in order to weaken him, and then she kills him. And she does, and this is another sugya which we are not going to go into, but you should be aware of it. Gedola Aveira Lishma. It's the sugya of Aveira Lishma. She does an Aveira Lishma. And the Gemara there asks a question, V'hokam ishanya me Aveira. The Gemara asks a question, but she had pleasure from the Aveira. Presumably, the Gemara is presuming that although she didn't want to have to do it, but the Gemara is assuming that she had pleasure. Umeshani, and the Gemara answers, Toivosam shel Rishoim ro'ohi eitzel tzadikim. The good of Rishoim is viewed and felt as being bad for tzadikim. When the Nochosh was intimate with Chava, there's no suggestion of saying even though she was karka olam, nobody would have suggested that Chava should have allowed herself to be killed rather than being intimate with the Nochosh. Why? Because she might have enjoyed it, even though she was karka olam. Because Hana is considered like a Maisa. The answer is, for a tzaddik or tzaddikes, what is Hana, for a Rasha, for her, there was no Hana. She derived no Hana from it at all. Okay. And the Gemara, so then what is the question over there, bottom of the page? Why the Gemara asks, the Gemara's question is that she is praised. Minoshim ba'ohel tevarich. Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Veleah. Minoshim ba'ohel tevarich. In the Shiras Devaira, Yael is praised as being praiseworthy. Now the Gemara says, okay, you did a great thing, fine, but you should be praiseworthy. Look at the page. That was the Gemara's kasha over there. Because then we have G'dei Aveira Lishma. Fine. And now we understand why the Pasuk actually praises Yael. De'im is hoisa and nusa. If she was forced, what's the shevach? What's the shevach? If she's forced, then why praise her? She's done nothing. Ve'im toima. Now, Esther asks Tosus a question. Why did Mordechai not divorce her first? He knew what was happening. Why did he not divorce her? So that he should be allowed once again to marry her. Because you can be machzir grusha loy asira biznus b'loy nisuim. If she was not an Eshes, he could have given her a get beforehand, and then she would do whatever she had to do, and then he could have married her back. Why did he not do so? That's Tosus' question. Well, no, that's not. No. Where's the bilas? Where do you have somebody making his bia a bilas nus? Mordechai. Yeah, but no. But where do you have a situation here of? He never went back to her. That's the whole Gemara. He didn't go back to her. The question is, Tosa says he could have done it, arranged it, that he could have gone back to her. Why did he not give her a get?
Then his beer would not be a beer's nus if he would have gone
then
back.
Then he would be able to have beer with her again. This way he wouldn't.
Right, I understand. I'm just saying the concept in this...
The concept doesn't come in here, because that's when somebody is intimate with somebody. We'll say about his kavanah. Here we're talking about he has no more beer with her.
But if he was divorcing her and came back afterwards,
then it's irrelevant. He's allowed to. It's mutter to marry her again. You don't need that to use that svara at all. That svara doesn't have any applicability here. The svara is when a person is doing a beer. The question is, what is his kavanah? Here it's a question of him. You see. Okay. Here it's a question of him. Why? Tosus is asking a practical question. Mordechai knew what was happening. Why did you not give her a get?
Yeah.
Answer, says Tosus, via shloima deloy hayoretze legarsha mipnei shayoyore penivod ala melech. He thought the king might find out, and that would be a problem.
Find out what?
You can think about what that means. In other words, it was a technical reason. It would have created a problem in the whole scenario if the king would have found out about this. Maybe he did not want the king to know. There's a few different ways of understanding this places, what the problem would have been. But either way, there would have been a technical problem, but otherwise in Ochanama he probably would have done. But given that it seems he did not have the divorce as an option, wasn't open to Mordechai, and therefore she's going to be lost, and that's kasher avadati avadati. Okay. That is the Tosfos. We're making slow progress, and tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem, we will learn a Noda B'Yehuda and the Maharik. We'll look at the Ramah, how we paskin halacha l'maisa, and then we'll start looking at some shaylas halacha l'maisa, Moshe Weinstein, Shudeyesh, and others, and it'll be a few more sessions. It's a beautiful sugya. I think so, anyway. It's really interesting. Let's see how